Hi there, my name is Matthew Dawkins, author of Wicked Wild Wonderful and other works on Wattpad, and you are listening to So Booking Cool with Joel B. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to So Booking Cool. It's Joel B. In this episode, I chat with 2018 Wattys Award winner. His books on Wattpad have a total of nearly 300,000 reads, such as Wicked Wild Wonderful and Dreaming Black Boy. He is a writer, poet, and creator. He is also a student. He is Matthew Dawkins. Stay tuned for our conversation right here on So Booking Cool. So, how do you decide when you want to publish a work of literature or you want to keep it for yourself?
Wow, that's a great question. So, almost all the pieces that I've ever written, I've decided I want to publish. And that's particularly because when writing something, I always consider it first very heavily if it's something I'm proud of. Because I never want to put my heart and soul into something that I feel like isn't powerful, or if it doesn't have a message, or if it's kind of just wandering, you know what I mean? So I never write anything that I'm not 100% proud of. And then if I'm 100% proud of it, then I ended up uploading it anyway. So I've never actually written anything that I haven't shared.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Do you think writing is something that young people should be encouraged to enjoy?
100%. I definitely do believe so. I feel even growing up in high school, I mean, all my friends could tell, even though at the time I didn't tell them that I wrote on Wattpad, for example, all my friends could tell that I had a skill with writing, but that be essays or just fictional pieces in class and stuff. And
Mhm.
they always asked for help. And I guess I was very privileged in the sense that my mom saw my interest in reading very early and tried to capitalize on that from a very early age. And that's why I was able to kind of hone my craft for so long. But other people didn't have that. And I feel like if many people had the support group that I had, so many so many different talents could have been explored, you know? So I feel like writing is definitely an avenue for people to kind of discover themselves a lot better and learn to like hone a new skill that they probably didn't see within themselves. Because I have many friends as well that they don't consider themselves writers, but once they saw me writing, they started writing and they fell in love with it as well. So I definitely feel like it should be something that is encouraged for sure.
Mhm. Could you see yourself ever teaching a writing class?
100%, yeah. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, I definitely could. I feel I've always had a sense of, I want to say, sharing in terms of experiences and skills. That's why I have a blog, because I've always wanted to share kind of how I navigate not only like writing, but also life experiences as well. And I just always want to share what I have and help it and allow it to benefit other people. So I feel like a writing class, I definitely love doing that because I definitely want to empower other people as well. So yeah.
And I have to mention, by the way, Matthew,
Yeah.
Dreaming Black Boy. I love one of the chapters, the aspects of the story where you say, Dad, why doesn't anyone think you exist?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is powerful. Can you tell us the meaning behind that?
Sure thing. So I think when I was writing Dreaming Black Boy, I was 17. Back then I had only written one previous work, and I was starting to get a little bit of attention on Wattpad, and I was also starting to come within myself as a writer. And I was beginning to, I guess, receive feedback both online and in person that allowed me to kind of question how people saw me. And the impressions that I got from people were very maternal. Like, for instance, my real life friends would always say, you know, like, where's your dad? Like, how come I never see him? And online, I would always kind of be faced with, like, oh my gosh, like, your mom must be so proud of you, or just
Mm,
very maternal focused comments. And I think that really allowed me to think about it because it's weird because I have a great relationship with my dad. I love my dad. He works so hard. He is an inspiration to me and he makes my life 1,000 times better. If it wasn't for him, I don't know what I would do. But it allowed me to really kind of break down why people had that assessment of me, and the correlation that probably had with the historical perception of Black men and the Black family, and how that was supposed to be made up. And so for that specific line, I knew I wanted to express it, and I knew that if I just expressed it in that one line in a kind of rhetorical question, it would really not even allow me to kind of gauge how other people saw me, but also allow other people to finally reflect and be more conscious of the way that they saw me. And then, as it's posed as a question, allow them to want to, or invite them to disassemble that idea and really look within themselves and wonder, why do people think I don't have a dad, you know? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So speaking of Wattpad, how did you discover the platform, Matthew?
Yeah, I remember this also very vividly. It's incredible the things I remember vividly and the things that I don't. But I remember I want to say 14, and I had a friend, and she was reading on Wattpad. And at the time, of course, I was a reader, but I was only reading like traditionally published books. And she was like, "You love reading? Like, oh my God, you should get Wattpad. Like, there's so many amazing stories on there. Like, you love it." And I remember I got it, and I fell in love immediately, and I've had it ever since. Yeah.
Do you think that this is a great way, it's a great alternative to trade publishing? Or do you
I
think one is
think
better than the other?
I don't think one is better than the other. I do feel like they both have their advantages, and I feel like rather than it being a binary relationship between the two, I really feel as though it's just the process or the idea of publishing that's evolving to now not just encompass one avenue, but now two. So I don't think it's necessarily a challenge or that there's some sort of friction, but I feel as if now we're beginning to see these two avenues kind of come together really and reshape the way that we think about books and publishing. So online has its advantages because it's, you know, open to everyone, and everyone is kind of allowed to hone on their craft and explore their writing style. And also publishing is good just because it's more traditional. You have a physical copy, but I feel as though they can't be compared.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What makes you vote on a story on Wattpad? What makes you add it to, I don't know, maybe the library or the reading list?
Yeah. So for my reading list, so I have, I think four. So one of them is called like your favorite read-alongs. So those are the ones that I'm currently reading that I think are really interesting, and I want my readers to follow along with that. Then I have your favorite books, which are books that I've read and finished that I think are exceptional. I never add books to there that I wouldn't recommend to be published immediately, that I wouldn't recommend to anyone. Like, those books are exceptional. And the same goes for your favorite shorts, just that the books in those are more short stories and poetry. And I think there's one more, but I'm forgetting. But yeah. And then for my library is quite hectic. I have a lot of books in my library because I'm always exploring new books on Wattpad. And even though I might not pick something up immediately, I know I definitely want to get back to it. So anything that seems interesting and seems like maybe a new perspective that I haven't been exposed to just yet, I add that to my library.
Very interesting, very interesting. And as somebody who has always loved reading and books, do you have a preference for like borrowing it from the library or getting it from the store? You know, what is your preference for consuming books?
I think I would prefer to get it from the store just because then I can kind of call it my own, and I can add it to like my home and my person, and it can be like my own, you know, I can like I can have ownership of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I'm in college. I can't be spending all that money, so the library is a tool for me. Currently, I have so many books in my room that I borrowed from the library, especially for Black History Month. So that's my avenue right now. But I think as long as it's a physical copy, I think that's what I prefer the most. I feel like physical books they make the writing feel so much more tangible and make the story feel so much more real. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and you mentioned Black History Month, of course. Do you have a recommendation, like off the top of your head, or?
Yes, immediately.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Let's hear it.
one, let me just pull this up. I have this book
Nice.
right here. It's not fiction. I'll give you a fiction recommendation in a bit. But this is a non-fiction book by White Fragility. I mean, it's called White Fragility, and it is
Hmm.
by Robin DiAngelo. And essentially, she's a sociologist, and she's trying to hone into the way that white people navigate race and how that affects people of color, specifically Black people. So then she's kind of approaching that dichotomous relationship in a new way that we kind of aren't educated on enough. And my professor actually introduced me to it, and I read it, and I have been in love ever since. It's exceptional. I think everyone should pick it up. And I think, out of everything here, I think I have to go with a fellow Jamaican author. I
Hmm.
recently got Gardening in the Tropics by Olive Senior. This is essentially a poetry book by Olive Senior, who's an incredible Jamaican poet who we study a lot in high school, and I saw it and I had to pick it up because I knew I had to get in touch with my roots. And her work is so poignant, so refreshing, and it really gives us a deeper sense of what it's like to be an islander and what our heritage and our culture really means to us. So those are the books that I recommend for Black History Month.
Thank you for that. I
Of
love
course.
that you showed us the books too.
Yeah,
Yes,
I have them.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll be on the checkout for that. And White Fragility, this must be a sign too for me to check this out, because I saw the book on a show that I watched too. And then
Really?
now you're recommending, yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So it's like, yeah, so I'm gonna have to.
It's really good. You should get it. It's really good. Amazing.
Now, would you say that you're a fast reader or a slow reader, and how do you define a fast reader or a slow reader?
Hmm. I wouldn't I wouldn't say I'm a fast or a slow reader. I think I consume different books differently. I think is what it is. I think
Mm.
for nonfiction books, I can go through it a little quicker because it's more about absorbing information. While for fiction books, for example, poetry is normally very short, so that kind of goes a little quicker. But for novels, um, I guess I would consider myself a little bit slower just because there's just it's not just about absorbing the story. There's also so many intricate details kind of interwoven within it. I mean, from diction to the similes and the metaphors and the symbolism. There's just so much more that I need to underline and highlight and make sure that I'm understanding the story in the most multifaceted and intricate way possible.
Hmm.
So I'd say it just depends on what I'm reading. And how would I define a slow reader and a fast reader? I guess, hmm, I don't know. I guess I define a slow reader as someone who is a lot more meticulous, maybe, with the work that they're reading. And they'll probably finish like 5 pages in maybe 25 minutes. And I'd consider a fast reader someone who's just very excited and very amped up to just get through the story and just absorb it all and consume it. So, yeah.
Hmm. I like how you didn't judge somebody like who might be considered a slow reader. That's
No.
really good. You said they might be meticulous.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how long do you like to take time in between reading books?
Um, I wouldn't actually don't put a limit on it. I think there's always a book that I want to read, and I don't think I consciously put off any time. I just think I go into it so that when I finish a book, I want to finish it,
Mhm.
absorb it, make sure that my mind is still kind of pondering upon it and what it means. And then as soon as I feel like I've completely digested the book and all it had to say to me, then I'll pick up something new. So I wouldn't put a time frame on it exactly. It just depends on what the book has to offer to me and how I kind of take the time to digest that.
Hmm. And yes, going back to the fact that you're also a college student. So what are you currently studying?
So I am studying, well, I'm looking to pursue, this is going to sound very long, but I'm at Western, so I'm doing a double major in English language and English literature, as well as SASA, which is an acronym for the School for the Advanced Study in the Arts and Humanities. And I'm also doing a minor in transitional justice and a certificate in practical French.
Wow.
Practical Spanish, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a heavy
Okay.
course load. Yeah.
What advice can you give to college students, especially those who are they have multiple concentrations in school and they're also writing?
Wow. Well, I'll firstly say that I know your pain. I know your struggle. But I think what I'd like to say is don't force yourself to write anything. I feel as though if there's a story that's meant to be told and it's living inside of you, it will be told. And if you try to churn it out of you like you're a machine, it's not going to come out the way that it should or the way that it could be told in the best possible way. So I definitely feel like you should not pressure yourself at all, but rather you should allow the story to come through you naturally. And if the story isn't coming through you naturally under all that pressure and the stress of school and all the other things that you're probably tackling, then it might be a sign that the story isn't worth being told at all. Because as long as the story is important, as long as the story is meaningful and massive, then it will come out of you no matter what.
All right. And what is your advice for other novelists and poets?
I think my advice has always stayed the same since I was 17. I think it's our responsibility to just stay true to ourselves and to write stories that we see ourselves in and to write stories that we think aren't being told. I think as long as we're doing that, we are fulfilling the role that we're put on this earth to do. Tell meaningful stories and tell them well. Yeah.
Okay. I feel that.
Yeah.
What are more books and authors that you would like to see more of?
Wow. I definitely like to see, in terms of authors, I feel like I'm a very diverse author range. Maybe a bit more male Black authors. We have a couple, but maybe a bit more in mainstream. I'd also like to see stories that kind of, how would I say, explore masculinity, because I feel like our times are, I don't want to say progressing, but we're beginning as a society to kind of question what we thought to be traditional and thought to be norms. And we see that with femininity taking place. We see how modern media is really trying to allow us to see what are the roles of females, why are these the roles of females, what's considered feminine and why, and allowing us to dismantle all these concepts that we've kind of grown up with and just kind of accepted. And I feel like masculinity isn't getting the same treatment. I definitely feel like the male characters that we see today are the same male characters that we've seen forever. And I'd love to see a writer that's brave enough to kind of disassemble masculinity in a meaningful way. Yeah, and see the extent of what's considered masculine and what isn't considered masculine. I feel like I could definitely offer an insightful story.
That could be you.
That could be me. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe I just teased a story that I'm working on.
Yes. Wow. Okay, Matthew, by the way, unfortunately, I'm not sure if my first question got through.
Okay.
So I want to re-ask you that question and get your
Sure thing.
response. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Matthew, when did you fall in love with writing, and when did you fall in love with your writing, or have you fallen in love with your writing yet?
Yeah. I remember it very, very vividly. But my mom would tell you that I fell in love with writing ever since I was a child. I was stuck with write and read because when I was younger, I would follow my mom everywhere. Everywhere we went, I was behind her, tagging along. And when we went to the supermarket, any type of store, absolutely anywhere, I would always ask to get a book. I would always ask to read. I would always ask to do something involving that. And I was never interested in toys. Everyone thought it was weird, and that was just me. But I think for me, when I made a kind of more conscious note of that I loved writing was when I was reading Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. I love Cassandra Clare. She inspires me to this day. But I was reading that, and I remember vividly sitting down in the 7th grade in class when I should be working, not working, instead of reading and reading the words on the page and going, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I remember it so vividly. I made that decision right there and then, and that's what it's been. And I think the moment I fell in love with my writing, I don't think there's an exact moment per se, but I definitely do feel like it happened somewhere along the process of writing Wicked Wild Wonderful, because I was writing that for about a year, and in that time no one had kind of seen it. So I guess I was kind of in isolation and left with myself and my own writing and not taking the feedback of anyone else, and instead just trying to hone in on my craft and what that meant for me. And I think that's definitely when I began to realize that I had a skill and I had something that needed to be shared. So I think that's when I fell in love with my writing, yeah.
And what is it about Wicked, Wild, Wonderful? In case this did not make the original opening of the, what is it about Wicked, Wild, Wonderful that you think continues to resonate with people?
I think what it is that my main character is not the typical main character, not just the fact that she's Black, but she's also a Black female character that I feel like we don't see very often because she's mixed. So her mom is from Jamaica because I'm from Jamaica and I had to put little island flavor in there. So her mom's from Jamaica and her dad is from California. He's white. So I kind of wanted to play on the kind of what we presume to be that cultural binary conflict, and I wanted to play on that and how that kind of affected Naomi. And at the same time, she's also a ballet dancer, which is also a non-traditional role, I guess you could say, for a Black female, especially in media. So I wanted to play on that, and I feel as though that originality and that kind of allowing us to see Black female protagonists in a new light was definitely an attracting factor to my book, and allowed a lot of people to kind of disassemble what they thought a Black character should be. And also, I would have to add that my book has resonated with people because when I was writing it, I was a teenager, and Naomi's a teenager, so I definitely do feel like I was experiencing a lot of the same feelings that she was in the very same intense and heightened way that she was. So I was able to capture that and was able to be very, very raw and honest. And so I put that in the story, and I do feel like that's what kind of elevated the story's writing because it was so authentic to what the teenage experience really, truly is, that I feel like a lot of old men in a writing room can't probably muster up in the exact same way. So yeah.
Misty Copeland should check out your book if she hasn't already.
Wow, if she did, I would. And it's actually very funny because probably before I wrote Wicked Wild Wonderful, I would not know who that was. But in that year of me writing it, I did so much ballet research that I know who she is now.
Right.
I know the entire ballet world through and through.
That's fantastic. How did you decide that you wanted it to have ballerina themes?
I think so. A few years prior, I think I watched Black Swan, and so many elements of that movie stuck with me, and I saw it about probably 5 more times, just alone in my room. And I think there's just something about the way that ballerinas or ballet dancers have to navigate ballet, how they have to be so strict and perfect and poised. And I saw that as being very similar to how I wanted to tell the story of Naomi, as always having to be perfect and poised with just her family and school, and always having like the expectation on her to be a perfect girl. So I definitely feel like those two elements went very, very well together, and also the deconstruction of them would also align quite well. So I think that's what really allowed me to kind of merge those two ideas together. Yeah.
Also, there is Chance the Rapper on your wall. We can see it.
Yes.
So are you a fan of?
I love Chance the Rapper. Chance is incredible. Yeah, no, I remember when. Oh crap! I'm gonna sound like a fake fan. I don't remember the name of his recent album. Not the one that just came out. Not the Big Day. The previous one. But when that dropped,
Colorist? Coloring book?
The Coloring Book. Thank you so much. Yes, when the Coloring Book dropped, I listened to that for at least 5 months straight. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of music do you typically enjoy?
I would say everything except country. I listen to R&B probably mostly, pop, because pop is definitely making moves right now. A lot of rap and anything in between. Alternative. Billie Eilish is making a lot of moves as well. So definitely venture into everything. Just not country. It's not for me.
Do you ever see yourself expanding your artistry into music?
Yes. I can't sing, nor can I play an instrument. I feel as though a lot of my poems, like my readers will probably tell you that they sound like either raps or they sound like a song. And I think that's just because I'm very, I don't want to say musically inclined because I can't sing or play an instrument, but I think in a lot of musical terms, and I do feel like in the future, probably I do see myself wanting to definitely merge two genres of writing and music. So who knows? Maybe.
Yes, who knows? Who knows? Okay, I have to ask, what do you want people to take away from a Matthew Dawkins book?
Wow. I think what I want people to take away the most is that there are still plenty stories that need to be told. And if you don't see yourself in them yet, then either you should write them or someone else is writing them. I think what I want people to understand is that the world is a lot bigger and they're not alone. And through reading me, they should escape it feeling more fulfilled, more open, and more knowledgeable about the things that they probably weren't so knowledgeable about prior. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
And on that note, Matthew Dawkins, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. I know you're very busy.
No.
You have a lot of priorities and stuff. I really appreciate it. It was such a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. I had so much fun.
I'm glad you did. Would love to talk to you again in the future, Matthew.
Of course.
And let everyone know how they can keep up with you. And your
sure thing. So you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or Wattpad at MatthewD_Writes. That's MatthewD_WRITES. You can also subscribe to my website. That's just MatthewDawkins.net.
Okay, guys, definitely do that if you have not already. Thank you to all the listeners, and until next time, so booking cool.
Bye.